When you're famous...
The makings of a star. But is it all over now for Julie Andrews? When 2020 continues... 2020 Friday continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
The story made headlines and the news took everyone by surprise. The beautiful voice of Julie Andrews, instantly recognized by people of all ages around the world, may have been permanently damaged by throat surgery. Julie Andrews is admittedly a very private person, but tonight for the first time she is ready to reveal the truth about her condition. Can she cope with a life without song? And what is her answer to the most difficult question of all? Will we ever hear the sound of her music again?
The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years.
Like her character in The Sound of Music, Julie Andrews has always loved to sing, and we have always loved the sound of her music.
For a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, the medicine...
Although she has built a solid acting career, it is for her singing roles that she's best remembered. And she continues to this day to delight new generations of fans when they see her on film as Maria von Trapp and Mary Poppins. She proved herself again 3 years ago when she returned to Broadway to star in the musical Victor Victoria.
Push away the shadows, the sun.
So it came as a shock last November when her husband, Blake Edwards, revealed that surgery may have left her vocal cords permanently damaged, and she might never sing again. To understand what the loss of her voice would mean to Julie, first you have to understand how it all began and see where her amazing voice has taken her. It started when her stepfather made a remarkable discovery. She was only 8 years old.
He was a fairly new stepfather, and I was not fond of him, and it was difficult. And I know my mother wanted us to get closer, and he was a fine tenor. And so he started to give me some singing lessons, and I think to his and my mother's surprise, they discovered I had this kind of freak 4-octave voice. Very, very strong, very powerful. It was like an adult larynx in a little tiny girl.
And then you were on the stage forevermore.
Both my mother and my stepfather were in vaudeville, and I started off on a little soapbox beside my stepfather, and we would sing duets together and things like that.
Julie became the star of the family act. In 1948, she was asked to sing for the King and Queen of England at a Royal Command performance. At age 13, she was the youngest person to receive that honor. You had no real childhood, though.
No, and I very much regret that I didn't get an education, not a good education.
And all this time, this great voice.
Well, yes, this freak voice. I mean, this sort of child prodigy, really. I could do the most incredible calisthenics. I mean, I could... coloratura arias were just nothing in those days. And then as I got older, it matured and settled into the voice that you know.
It's still a wonderful voice. It was a wonderful voice. We'll get to that.
While at once my heart to fly.
From child prodigy to Broadway star. At age 20, she won the lead role in the Lerner and Loewe musical, My Fair Lady. Her extraordinary voice was put to the test.
I could have done.
I think any lady that's ever played Eliza Doolittle will realize that it is the most demanding role. To do as dramatic a role as that with all the screaming of the Cockney, and then to sing in Cockney and scream all those songs, and then to sing in a pure voice as well, it's a tremendously demanding thing.
Can you, to this day, remember any of the lines?
Oh, things like I'm a good girl, I am, and mostly all the owls and the shrieks.
All I want is a room somewhere the cold night air with one enormous chair. Wouldn't it be lovely?
After 3.5 years in My Fair Lady, Julie has said her voice was ragged. She was 23 when she had her tonsils out and fully recovered. You always made singing look and sound very easy. It was one of the great things that you did.
Oh, thank you.
But you've said singing never has come easy, that you really have to practice to keep it in shape.
Oh, sure, yeah. I don't just leap out of bed with a glad shout every morning and trill away. It takes a lot of work.
I can't imagine that you can do musical after musical, show after show, without occasionally, having laryngitis, having some throat problems, very few singers can.
Oh, I don't know anybody that doesn't say, God, 8 shows a week, how am I going to keep going?
Did you ever have anything really seriously wrong with your voice?
No.
Just
no.
the usual, I have to spray it, I have to drink the tea, or whatever it was.
Yeah. No sort of damage to my cords or anything like that, no.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, even though the sound of it is something quite atrocious.
Mary Poppins became a glorious consolation prize when Julie wasn't cast in the film version of My Fair Lady. Playing the perfect nanny won her the 1964 Academy Award as Best Actress.
Oh, this is lovely.
So.
Then came The Sound of Music, and she was suddenly everybody's idea of the perfect mom. In reality, Julie and Blake Edwards' combined family of 5 had the usual difficulties, especially when their children were teenagers. She wasn't really Maria von Trapp. This image that you had, we talked to Rosie O'Donnell, and her mother died when Rosie was 10 years old. Is it true that you wanted your father to marry Julie Andrews?
It is totally true. I love Julie Andrews. The Sound of Music was and still is my favorite movie of all time. I thought, this is what I need to happen in my house. I need somebody to come in that my dad will fall in love with, that will love us, and that will make us clothes out of curtains. When she made the clothes out of the curtains in that movie, that was it. All the pain that I had would go away if Julie Andrews would just come in and marry my dad.
Oh. So I think that there were a lot of people who felt that because they'd seen you in these roles, that, everything would be perfect if they had
Just think I'd have had lovely Rosie O'Donnell for my daughter.
Exactly. Julie showed her versatility in the sophisticated anti-war film, The Americanization of Emily. It was a sexy, non-singing role where she worked very closely with James Garner.
I like your spirit, Commander.
That was a pretty hot stuff that went on screen.
Yes, well, thank God the film called for it.
I think I counted one time we kissed over 500 times during that movie, so we got to know each other very well.
I had never done a straight dramatic role on film before, and we were doing this very intense, passionate scene, and rolling around on the bed and kissing and carrying on. And I was thinking, oh boy, I'm getting a little hot under the collar, but I can handle this. So we kept shooting and shooting and shooting.
Well, easy, Tiger. That's a tailored shirt.
Oh, shut up and let me kiss you. Finally, when they said, okay, cut, that's a wrap, I got up and my legs just buckled underneath me because it was delicious.
How come you never had a real romance, though? It would have been so nice for the tabloids.
You don't do those things. I've been married for 42 years, and I was married then, and I'm still married, and that's why I'm still married. I didn't do those things.
Thank God we didn't, because we've managed to stay such good friends.
Where the hell are we?
The two friends are romantically paired again in a television movie they are now filming in Montreal.
So it's the continuation of the scene, right?
Yeah. 48 Alpha, take 1.
Called A Winter Visitor, it's set to air next season. This is one of the few recent projects that Julie has undertaken without her husband, Blake Edwards, who has directed her in 7 movies.
Blake has been the most enormous help. I think it's because he knows me so well, and he knows, I think, that there isn't just the squeaky clean lady in there.
How would you describe his influence on you?
Pretty monumental. It's been a tremendous influence. I think when you've been married 29 years, how could it not be an influence?
You know, there are the tabloids now, that say
I know.
the marriage is terrible, the marriage is falling apart.
Yes.
Well, just to get it straight, how's the marriage?
The marriage is very healthy, thank you.
Really?
Really healthy, yes. The tabloids are insidious, and yet somebody somewhere is going to be sitting under a hairdryer or reading it on a train or something, and they will say, well, there must be something to it. And that's what's so dangerous.
In 1995, after more than a 30-year absence from Broadway, Julie Andrews returned as the lead in the stage version of Victor Victoria, written, produced, and directed by her husband, Blake Edwards. During the show's year-and-a-half run, Julie had gallbladder surgery, pneumonia, and it was reported missed many performances because of her throat problems.
It was a very, very difficult show. It was a very physically difficult show. But I thought, oh, God, I'd hate to wake up 10 years from now and say, damn, I wish I'd done that, you know.
And you loved it?
Loved it. Loved it. I worked for a totally different reason than in the old days. I used to work because I knew nothing else, and I couldn't do anything else, and it was what I had been taught to do. These days, I do it because I love it.
When we come back, the question that Julie Andrews has struggled with for more than a year now, will she ever be able to sing again? Stay with us.
The show must go on without Julie Andrews, her voice damaged by a twist of fate.
It's an absolute tragedy. Does that sum it up?
Can she sing at all now? Will her voice ever be the same? Barbara Walters with startling answers from Julie Andrews. After this.
Julie Andrews has a very full life. At 63, she is the mother of 5 children, grandmother of 5 more, and a wife of nearly 30 years. But singing has been the wind beneath her wings since she was a child. As we continue, you'll hear about the throat surgery that has brought her musical career crashing down. Have we heard the last of her enchanting voice? Well, let's get to the
nitty-gritty.
To the nitty-gritty. In June of 1997, you had throat surgery to correct what was described as a non-cancerous throat condition. Yes?
Yes.
This was not supposed to be a serious operation. Usually it is not, as I understand it.
It's just over 19 months ago. I went in for a routine procedure that I was told would not be threatening to my vocal cords. And since then, as you know, and as everybody's been talking about, I've just been unable to sing.
That's the big question. Will Julie Andrews be able to sing again?
Well, I can only say I hope so. I have to be optimistic. I think to some degree I'm in a form of denial about it because to not sing with an orchestra, to not be able to communicate through my voice, which I've done all my life, and not to be able to phrase lyrics and give people that kind of joy, I think I would be totally devastated. So I am in some kind of denial.
You were told this would be routine, that you'd come out and your voice would be fine.
Yeah, that given a certain recuperative time, and it certainly wasn't 2 years, I would be singing just as well or better than ever.
And now you can't sing at all?
No.
It's not just that you can't hit the high notes. You can't sing.
No, I simply can't do a song for you.
Your throat problems became international news when your husband, who was very frank, Blake Edwards, was quoted as saying of your voice, if you heard it, you would weep. I don't think she'll sing again. It's an absolute tragedy. Does that sum it up?
Yeah, it just about sums it up. Yeah, it is a tragedy. Thank God I wasn't younger. But, I mean, at least I've had a wonderful career, but I'm still, as I say, still hoping that this will reverse itself. But it's been a long time now. It's nearly 4 months short of 2 years.
The tabloid said that you were furious with your husband for going public about your voice, for saying how bad it was. Were you angry with him?
You know, I guess because I'm private, a very private person, and Blake is completely the opposite, and he just says what he feels. And in fact, he was doing an interview about some totally unrelated thing, and he thought that the interview was over, and the lady said, "How's your wife?" And he said, "You know, she's not good in terms of her voice." And of course, that's what was quoted. So they snuck up on him a bit.
But he was telling the truth.
He was telling the truth, yes. Indeed he was.
And what do the doctors who are seeing you now say?
They say that they don't hold out much hope, but that I should continue practicing.
You know, I think of Frank Sinatra or Tony Bennett.
Yes.
I mean, Sinatra, from the time he was, what, 60s to 80s.
Just matured and matured.
Yeah, matured and sang,
yeah.
and more money.
And Ella.
Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
So it isn't as if...
And Lena.
And Lena Horne.
A wonderful example.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, you would, I assume, have been able to sing for many more years had you wanted to.
Oh, sure. I mean, one's voice always warms and sometimes thickens a little as you get older, but it doesn't stop you from singing or the ability to sing, so you transpose a key or something like that, but it doesn't stop you from being able to sing.
Are you thinking of suing?
Believe me, it's under consideration, and obviously right now it's in the hands of lawyers, and we'll make some decisions.
Have you had to abandon any projects now? I mean, were there things that were coming up that
yes,
you can't
a lot.
do now?
Yes, a lot. And, well...
Singing roles?
Singing roles, yes. Not just roles, but tours and albums and things like that. It's probably better I don't talk about it.
Julie, as we talk, your voice sounds hoarse. Is that part of this condition?
Yes.
So it's not just the singing?
No, it is the speaking as well.
Speaking as well?
Yeah.
You can act in films. You don't have to project in films.
Right.
But what if you want to go on the stage where you do have to project?
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of your voice affected?
I don't know. That remains to be seen.
So you don't know if you can even go on a stage
8 times a week. I would be extremely worried.
Julie, if you can't sing anymore,
mm-hmm.
how will it change your life?
God, you'll have to ask me that again another time. Right now, as I said, I simply cannot contemplate it. I don't want to say that I never can. So ask me again in a couple of years, okay?
And then if it's still no?
Oh, I think it will change something inside of me forever.
And I'll sing once
Breaks your heart that we may never hear that glorious voice again. All we can do is keep our fingers crossed and wish her well. But Julie, fortunately, has other interests. She may indeed do a play. She writes children's books, one due out this fall, and she plans to continue her work with UNIFEM, a United Nations agency which helps empower women in developing countries.
And in a way, technology can really be a blessing here, because we always have her albums and films and wonderful performances, so her voice will never really be lost. We'll be right back.
Victoria.
push away the shadows, the sun.
So it came as a shock last November when her husband, Blake Edwards, revealed that surgery may have left her vocal cords permanently damaged, and she might never sing again. To understand what the loss of her voice would mean to Julie, first, you have to understand, and the news took everyone by surprise. The beautiful voice of Julie Andrews, instantly recognized by people of all ages around the world, may have been permanently damaged by throat surgery. Julie Andrews is admittedly a very private person, but tonight, for the first time, she is ready to reveal the truth about her condition. Can she cope with a life without song? And what is her answer to the most difficult question of all? Will we ever hear the sound of her music again?
The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years.
Like her character in The Sound of Music, Julie Andrews has always loved to sing, and we have always loved the sound of her music.
For a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. The medicine.
Although she has built a solid acting career, it is for her singing roles that she's best remembered. And she continues to this day to delight new generations of fans when they see her on film as Maria von Trapp and Mary Poppins. She proved herself again 3 years ago when she returned to Broadway to star in the musical Victor.
When you're famous, the makings of a star. But is it all over now for Julie Andrews? When 2020 continues. 2020 Friday continues. Once again, Barbara Walters.
The story made headlines.